Cape Coral man says he wants answers tonight, weeks after he says 3 off-duty Fort Myers police officers shattered his facial bones during a fight at Dixie Roadhouse in Cape Coral.
For what they did, they should be, held accountable just like any other citizen would. Actually even more because they're police officers.
It's Robert Volk, and he says the fight started with some harsh words and shoving, but ended with him in the hospital getting metal plates screwed into his face to reconstruct that eye socket and his cheekbones.
Four in the Corner has been trying to get answers about exactly what happened, who was involved, and if any of the officers are actually facing punishment for their alleged involvement, even if they were off duty at the time. But because it's an active investigation, they're not saying much to us. They are, though, talking to Volk. He sat down with Four in the Corner's Amy Wegman to share his side of the story.
It was supposed to be just another night of line dancing at Dixie Roadhouse in Cape Coral.
I had no intention of having any problems that evening, with anybody, just out trying to dance and have a good time like everybody else.
But Robert Volk says a misstep on his part while dancing took the night in a very different direction.
Must have went the wrong way. When I was supposed to go left, I went right, bumped into these guys, completely not intentional. And then they took real offense to it. There was some words, confrontation, the face-to-face sort of thing, and I was pointing. And then that's when the shoving began and everything ensued from there.
A fight that ended with his face looking like this, bloodied, swollen, and bruised. And according to the CT scan at the hospital that night, he says shattered.
They informed me that, I had 4 broken bones in my face and severe concussion. Might have vision loss permanently or hearing loss.
Adding to the pain of the injury, Volk says he learned days later that the 3 men he says kicked and hit his face repeatedly while he was laying on the floor were off-duty Fort Myers police officers. He couldn't believe it.
Mostly shock, just complete and utter shock at what not only happened, but how badly they beat me. I mean, if I was a lesser man, I wouldn't have survived that.
Fox 4 got this notice on March 4th, 2 weeks after the fight, confirming that 3 officers are on leave at Fort Myers Police. This is pending an investigation of the incident that happened at Dixie Roadhouse. He contacted Cape Coral Police since their officers were the ones that responded to the scene at Dixie on the night of the incident. Initially, he couldn't believe his eyes when he saw how the altercation was described in the report from the responding officers.
There's not one mention of how I got injured or what happened to me in any way, shape, or form. All it says is I have a small cut under my eye, which obviously was a lot more than that, and they seem to severely downplay my injuries.
And he says he was labeled as the primary aggressor in the initial police report.
That's what blows my mind is they used the 3 guys as the witnesses against me. The 3 guys that almost beat me to death.
He was injured, and Volk says he was stuck.
I was at a dead end at this point. Nobody was doing anything, and it's when I found out that they were police officers, and then once I called the Cape Coral Police Department and informed them of that, which I think they knew. They started to cooperate a lot more, and then pretty much the whole thing changed because the chief of police seen the video. And then once he witnessed what happened, he's the one that actually told them to let me know to get a lawyer and prosecute these guys for what they did to me.
They have confirmed to you that these 3 men accused of getting in this altercation with you are Fort Myers police officers that were off duty?
Yes, it's the 3. They're the 3 individuals that are listed as the victims on that statement there.
Volk says he's been talking to detectives at Cape Coral Police, but he can't get many answers because they're telling him this is still an active investigation. He also hasn't been allowed to see surveillance video from inside Dixie Roadhouse during that fight. But he says sergeants with Cape Police describe what they saw when they watched it.
I asked him about how long before they got pulled off of me, and then he told me, he'd have to go through the timestamps, but he guesstimated between 60 to 90 seconds.
So this was not 1 or 2 hits?
No, this was multiple blows.
And to him, thanks to this video, it sounds like he might soon see justice.
Because he had to do a frame by frame because once the guys jumped on me is when everybody crowded around. But he said they had multiple views, so they're doing frame by frame to see which officer, to charge with what or who kicked me when, or, just trying to get a play-by-play.
What do you want to see happen?
What they did, they should be, held accountable just like any other citizen would. Actually even more because they're police officers.
And Volk does admit that he swung at one of the men after the shoving first started. You might be wondering, where do things go from here? Cape Police tell Volk that they have to finish their investigation first, and then this will go to the state attorney's office. He and his attorney are trying to figure out if they are going to take legal action. In the newsroom, Amy Wegman, Fox 4 in your corner.